Fran's Film Room, sponsored by Ashley. There he is, the Duff Man. What was Francis's reaction to that last play of the game?
He was heavily invested in that play. It was fun to be able to experience that with him, but just a wild, I mean, wild game.
Wild.
It's seriously a tale of two halves. I don't even know where to begin. This is an insane outcome.
All right, let's start with the offense because it was just you want to talk about a tale of two halves. What did you see from them coming alive in the second half, and is it possible that it was something where like somebody in the organization forgot that they could turn on the pass the ball flip switch?
Well, it was kind of like, oh yeah, like this AJ Brown guy's got a chance to be pretty good in this league.
Oh, this
it was
thing that everybody has been yelling us about makes sense.
Yeah, obviously AJ coming through, but even like, the play to Dallas Goedert down the seam, which we can get into. I've got a breakdown of that one. The DeVonta Smith touchdown was outstanding. The good design. That was a play that they'd run. I mean, essentially they ran that route. I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times in the game. And this one, they ran in the low red zone and they were able to hit for a touchdown. It was actually a really good call against what the Rams were doing from a coverage standpoint. But I mean, look, it was when you look back at that first half, it was a little bit of everything. You had some bad throws, you had some bad play calls, you had blown protections from an assignment standpoint. You had offensive linemen losing one-on-one for sacks, not just backups but starters as well. Landon Dickerson gave up that sack on the first or second drive. The run game could not get going. You had receivers running the same route and being in the same area, Dotson and Smith early on in this game. So a little bit of everything, but obviously they were able to turn it around in the second half.
All right, so let's start with DeVonta Smith. You have DeVonta
Yeah.
one here. I imagine this is the game-winning touchdown.
It is. Yeah. Let's take a look at the game winning touchdown. And I think the big thing here that you want to be able to look at is that the Eagles come out in an empty set. All right. And so when you come out in an empty set, you are essentially forcing the defense to kind of show their cards. What are they looking to do from a coverage standpoint, especially in the red zone? This is going to be a bang bang play. Jalen Hurts is if he's dropping back and looking, things have gone terribly wrong from the design of the play. So if you are the Rams, you kind of have to show your hand here. And I think that the Rams, their plan of attack, Julia, if you go to the next shot here, their plan here was, all right, we are going to double A.J. Brown. So we're going to bracket A.J. Good, all right, good plan. And then we are going to spy Jalen Hurts. Also, good plan. And it's essentially zero coverage across the rest of the board. You've got a 4-man rush, and then you've got the one safety is going to bracket A.J. The other safety kind of rolls down, and he is now going to spy Jalen Hurts on this play. So Jalen's not going to be able to run around, unlikely to be able to run around and run this in for a score. So he's got to hit the top of his drop and let this ball go. And if we go to the last shot here, we can see basically what he's doing. He's going to work the bottom of the screen. This is going to go. We know this goes to DeVonta Smith. He's running a little speed out route here from the slot. The big thing here, Saquon Barkley is lined up to the bottom of the screen. Saquon has to win outside. It's a mandatory outside release because you need that corner to turn outside. He can't be looking back at Jalen Hurts, so he's got to be fast with the outside release. And obviously, DeVonta Smith also has to win outside release. He cannot get held up here on this play because he's got to be available for Jalen Hurts to be able to cut this ball loose and throw it to the pylon here. Outstanding throw, good execution, nice play call, no expecting what the coverage was. If he's looking at AJ here, this ball might go the other way, right? And so it was a nice job there from Jalen Hurts, from the coaching staff, dialing up the right play at the right time.
And so he needs to recognize that pre-snap that's going to be his best matchup.
Yeah, and they disguised it pretty well. It's not like they shaded that safety all the way over there, right? So that safety was still relatively, on the hash marks there at the snap of the ball. So honestly, like that wasn't even a post-snap look for Jalen. They just kind of expected, hey, you know what? They're probably going to be trying to take it away AJ here, especially after we threw him the fade in an earlier trip of the red zone.
Hey, what did you make of the way that Sirianni handled the end of that drive from like a clock management standpoint?
Yeah, I mean there were a couple weird things from this game, and you can go to and honestly on both sides. Yeah. You were talking about McVay and his conservative nature, but there was. I'll get into like the nitty gritty of it, but I've got some notes in terms of there were some weird things there going on a couple of those drives towards the end.
Yeah, I mean it's funny. That one was like from the Eagles' perspective. I thought when it was first and goal that they were going to just try to run and get like 2 or 3 tush pushes in to bleed clock that way. But then once they got the negative play with Saquon, you had to just go for it. I thought Sirianni's timeout on the Rams' final drive was kind of odd, but who knows? I mean, without it, I don't know if they win the game.
Yeah, it's it put time back on the clock. The Rams were going to use the timeout anyway, so obviously he doesn't know that, but that was they dodged one there for sure.
All right, one more play from the passing game that you want to break down, Fran, and that is the Dallas Goedert touchdown, which, I mean, here we were just laughing about that because it was like they're down 26-7.
So easy.
And then all of a sudden, in like 3 plays, they just go throw the ball right downfield. And like, oh, they're allowed to do that? Like, it was very funny.
Well, it was like you had the sluggo the previous play to AJ Brown. It's like, oh, we can do something to complement the slant route. Like there are other things that we can do. So they ran the sluggo to AJ Brown the previous play, and then they come down and they hit Dallas Goedert down the seam. Now we didn't get a great replay of this, but from the broadcast angle, I'm pretty sure about what the coverage was here from the Rams. We'll find out in the morning. But if we want to go to the first shot here, Julia, what I think the Rams are doing here is called cover 2 invert, where if we just look at the bottom of the screen, you can see that the safety is dropping down and the corner is dropping all the way back, and he's getting towards the middle of the field here. He's dropping as a safety. So the corner and safety are switching responsibilities on this play. And if you look at the linebacker in the middle of the field, that circle that's towards the middle there, he is opening up to that side and kind of running the shoot. So he is that middle linebacker in Tampa 2. And but the reason why he opens his hips so far towards the bottom of the screen is that that Tampa 2 middle linebacker, you're always going to open to the passing strength. And that is the 3 receiver side here for the Eagles. You've got 2 receivers to the bottom of the screen there. So he is opening to the passing strength. And that means now that if Jalen wants a ball down the seam, the linebacker is not going to be able to make a play on this. So all you have to do is make sure that you beat both safeties. So you've got a vertical route at the top of the screen. That's the other Tampa 2 safety, because they disguised this coverage, that's the corner that's at the bottom. So he's not making a play on this throw to Dallas Goedert. It was a great ball. We can go to the next shot here. And you can see the protection was outstanding there as well. I know Greg Olsen pointed that out in the broadcast. Great job from Fred Johnson on this play. But the protection was outstanding. He's able to lay this up and over the linebacker there in the middle of the field. Dallas Goedert walks into the end zone for a touchdown. So just an outstanding job there. Good play recognition again from Jalen Hurts, understanding, hey, this is probably the call we're getting here. This seam route's going to be open. The Rams have been really good at disguising zone coverages over the course of this season. It was something that the Eagles and Jalen Hurts struggled a little bit with in the middle stretches of last year. So being able to come back from that and hit on that play and get them back into the game, that was certainly a big moment in this football game.
What did you make? We talked about it a little bit, Fran, but what did you make of Matt Pryor getting the first crack at right tackle before Fred Johnson?
I don't know if it is a situation from a depth chart standpoint where, because we saw this a little bit in camp where it's like, all right, this guy is going to be the right tackle and this guy is going to be the backup left tackle as opposed to a true backup swing. I don't know. I can't imagine that there's too much verbiage that was that different for Fred Johnson to kind of get acclimated to. That's the only thing I could think of is that, all right, Fred was the backup left tackle. Pryor was the backup right tackle. He earned it with the way that he performed in camp, that kind of situation. But that was surprising to see that he was the backup right tackle initially out of the gate.
Fran, in your professional opinion, do you think throwing the ball to AJ Brown is a good thing to do?
That's generally a positive when you can throw it to the guy that, as you said, is always open.
All right, we got 2 plays on defense to get to before we then finish with the Jordan Davis block. Let's start with the good on defense, and that was the first drive of the game. I said it, I think, at the halftime show that of all the superstars on this team, you could actually make a case that maybe Zack Baun is the best of them. He could be the best player on the team. And this play early on was obviously a game changer, led to the Eagles' only first half touchdown.
Yeah, it's a big time play. And when we talk about pairing up Zack Baun with Jihad Campbell, one of the great things about Campbell is that, like Baun, he's got that versatile skill set. He's a good blitzer from depth. He can drop back and make plays in coverage. So being able to have those guys mix and match and do different things, or I should say, do the same things, allows for Vic Fangio to be versatile with the way that he utilizes both players. And this is a good example here on this play. As we go to the first shot, Jihad Campbell's going to be blitzing here in the B gap. So he's actually going to go after Matthew Stafford. It's going to be a zone coverage call from the Eagles. Matthew Stafford here wants to go to DeVonta Adams, who is in a stacked set to the left on the hash mark. And that's going to give him a free release. It's going to be a slant route towards the middle of the field. Stafford's like, hey, you know what? This is a blitz coming from the left. I've got DeVonta Adams running a slant to the left. This should be easy pickings. I'm basically just going to take this right from where they're vacated. If you go to the next shot, Julia, it's a really clear picture. Like you look at this and you're like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense for Matthew Stafford to put this ball right on the left hash mark. You see that nobody's got a fingertip on DeVonta Adams here. This should be a nice, easy pitch and catch for those guys against the blitz on 2nd and long. But Zack Baun obviously had other plans. You go to the next shot here, and you see the ground that Zack Baun is able to cover. He does an outstanding job of getting into this passing lane, jumps the throw, makes the play for the interception. So a great job from Baun of being able to say kind of bait it in terms of not overselling and getting too far underneath that route to take the throw away, but also just a really good blitz, understanding what are their answers against the blitz. How do we make this? How do we bait this interception from a schematic X and O standpoint? Great job all around from Vic Fangio, his staff, and then obviously from Zack Baun on this play.
All right, and then the one big play that they gave up in that first half was the downfield touchdown to DeVonta Adams with Reed Blankenship in coverage, helped by a little bit of a push-off that could have been offensive pass interference. But how did they get that matchup to their favor?
Yeah, look, this is the second week in a row now that we're seeing teams kind of attack that secondary from a zone rules standpoint, especially with the use of motion. And we see this here on this play, Julia, as we go to the first one. You could see that they bring Jordan Whittington in motion before the snap from right to left. And before the snap, before the motion happens, Quinyon Mitchell is one-on-one with Adams. And if that, according to Greg Olsen, that was the matchup all day, is that Quinyon shadowed DeVonta Adams wherever he went, depending on which side of the formation. All right, that's the side that Quinyon's going to be on. Now, once there's motion and Adams is no longer the number one receiver, Quinyon Mitchell's not traveling into the slot. So if a receiver motions outside of him, that's who Quinyon is going to pick up. So that's essentially what the Rams did here. They said, all right, if that's the way you're going to play it, we're going to motion Whittington out before the snap, and we're going to basically take Quinyon away from Adams, and then he's going to run a vertical route down the sideline. So we can see this on the next shot here, is that you've got Adams clearing Quinyon Mitchell in coverage. Now he's one-on-one with the safety down the field, and that's Reed Blankenship on this play. And now, so you have that one-on-one situation. You get the push off there from DeVonta Adams. That's a veteran move. He was able to hide it well. Obviously, you go back and you look at the screen grabs and say, oh, that should have been PI. Probably should have been. The Eagles got away with a PI, later in the game as well. Jacorian Bennett going up against Puka Nacua, so it did go both ways there. But I think when you're looking at it here, this is a play that I think that it's a concept I think that the Eagles are going to continue to see, is the use of motion and different formations to try and dictate. All right, we don't want Quinyon Mitchell on this number one receiver. We're going to move, kind of remove him from this spot and try and get him matched up on a safety, a receiver that we want. So we saw it last week on the touchdown to Tyquan Thornton late. We saw it here early on against the Rams as well.
You are absolutely relentless on Jacorian Bennett. Just
I just go to the facts. So I didn't even think about it.
You just had to get that in there. Although we do have to say,
I honestly didn't even think about it.
The Rams drive at the end of the game. I mean, 6 straight dropbacks that they just said we're throwing at Jacorian Bennett with Puka Nacua.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly Sean McVay was like, all right, like that's the matchup that we want. We're gonna have Puka Nacua just play low post basketball on Bennett. I mean, the one late, the one that was the underthrown fade. That could have gone either way. That was a little bit scary there on both sides of it. But yeah, certainly that was a matchup they wanted to try and take advantage of.
And we should say Adoree Jackson left this game with an injury. That's why that was made. It was not a plug-in for playing time purposes. All right, let's get to the final play, Fran. I mean, what a turnaround by you to get screen grabs of this already. And you see the graphic there from Julia. Jordan Davis in this game, 4 tackles. I think that actually maybe gets bumped up to 5. A tackle for loss, a sack, involved in 2 different field goal blocks, and scores a freaking touchdown to close out the game. Tell us what you saw on the final play.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they basically overloaded this. And I would actually love to ask you, Vinny, in terms of like the overall strategy behind this. But let's take a look at it, because basically what the Eagles do here is you're going to overload that front right side, and you could see like to our right of the long snapper, you've got Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Byron Young, like stacked right on top of each other. And essentially what you're doing is like you are dictating one-on-ones. Like, all right, no one's blocking Jordan Davis one-on-one. You're probably not blocking Jalen Carter one. Guys were in position to block the previous field goal, so we're just going to play on this again. We mentioned in the pitch the starting left guard in this game, like he's a smaller guard. He's probably in a more of an ideal center in the way that he's built. Coleman Shelton is also an undersized player. So from a height, weight, speed standpoint, those were offensive linemen that if you've got big, long, powerful defensive tackles, you can take advantage of that kind of situation. So they really kind of overload the front here in terms of trying to dictate matchups. Say, all right, well, you can't block our guys one-on-one. And then, Julie, if you just go to the next shot, I mean, just an unbelievably athletic play from Jordan Davis to climb the ladder here, get a hand on it, and be able to tip this ball. And then the athleticism for the scoop and score. I mean, I'm screaming on the sofa, like unbelievable. I can't believe what I'm seeing here. Just an unbelievable play from Jordan Davis, who has been doing this all year long. From week one, you can kind of see like that he was in different shape, was making more impactful plays as later in the game, and even last week against Kansas City, like. Third quarter, fourth quarter, I'm writing Jordan Davis's name down more often than what I was doing in previous years, studying him on tape.
Fran, you've watched a lot of tape and you've seen a lot of guys in next-gen stats and all that. If I set a line on the scoop and score top speed of Jordan Davis at 19.2 miles an hour.
I think that's too high.
I was thinking 18.7. All right, let's go 18.7. What do you got?
Pretty big, half a mile an hour. Okay. All right. Well, I'll take the over on 18.7 and the under on 19.2.
Wow.
Can I tell you what? I am so happy that like I'm sure Nick Sirianni's fall on the ball, that he didn't do the smart thing there. I'm so happy he just picked it up and ran with it. Good for him.
Honestly, I've got NFL GSIS up on my computer, right, as the game's going on, just because it helps me with note taking, all right, who they give the tackle to, that kind of thing. And GSIS, if I'm watching the game on TV, is usually ahead, right? So it's all right, because it's getting updated live from the stadium. When it's not updated, that usually indicates all right, something big happened here, because it's a lot to type out. So I'm like, all right, is there a penalty? Is there, did he make it? And it's just taking them time to finish out because the game's over. It's no, Jordan Davis blocks this kick and takes it back to the house. Just an unbelievable play from Jordan Davis.
People in the chat are telling us already that it was 18.5 on Jordan Davis' top speed. So there you go. All right, Fran, I'm going to leave you with one stat here that I have cherry picked to tell you the state of how the offense turned around. So I'm using two different stats to tell this story, but I think that's okay. So all of Jalen Hurts' games since 2021, you stack up all the first halves by success rate. This was the worst offensive first half the Eagles have had since Jalen Hurts became the starting quarterback. By EPA per drive, it is the best second half they have had with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback. So that tells you just how crazy that first half to second half turnaround was.
Yeah, I mean, it was three and outs to end the half, 4 3-and-outs to end the half. It was
and a lot of
that was rough, man. And then you got the sack fumble to start it. That was a rough start for that offense.
Thank you to True Media for giving us that breakdown there. All right, and thank you most of all to Fran Duffy for joining us from the film room. Fran, we will talk to you tomorrow.
One more real quick, Fran. Do you recall breaking down a certain field goal block of one Mr. Vinny Curry versus Seattle in 2020, was it?
Yes. Playoff game.
Go into the reservoir there. You got anything in the tank?
You Google Vinny Curry field goal block, and the first thing that comes up is a picture of you.
Honestly, I can look that up on True Media. I'll get on that this week.
Yeah, let's break that down. A little social content.
All right. And so if you have enjoyed Fran breaking it all down, make sure that you join us for the regular PHLY Eagles show at 2:00 tomorrow as Fran reviews all of the film from this game. Thank you so much, Fran.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.